And we're live. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having Jon and Karen and everybody, David. It was great.
We have David from KnownOrigin, who's going to give us an introduction about this wonderful project. And we've got Jon and Karen with us this afternoon. And actually, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody watching us. We'll pass on the word to David to give us an introduction about this project, and then we'll dive into a conversation about The Advocate, the film, the documentary, and all the story behind the screens. After you, David.
Hi, everyone. For those who don't know, I'm David Moore from KnownOrigin, one of the co-founders. We have a digital arts platform that's built on the Ethereum blockchain, essentially allows people to showcase and sell verified limited edition digital artworks. What I wanted to share with you today was this project that was brought to me by one of our current artists, who's Untitled Chapter, also known as Karen. She told me about a project that was this amazing documentary piece by Jon, who's on the call with us, and it's called The Advocate. And we wanted to see if the CryptoArt community could help back and support the GoFundMe campaign that Jon had put together. We want to see if the community will get behind purchasing the limited edition photography that Jon does, and this would go to fund the GoFundMe campaign directly. But I'll let Karen tell you more about kind of why she brought it over to us and introduced us to Jon, and I'll let Jon and Serena go into how awesome the project is. KnownOrigin we're in a privileged position, and we should use this privilege to shine a spotlight on underrepresented artists and projects and campaigns that we are passionate about. And this is one of many campaigns that I'm passionate about. So I'll hand over to Karen just to talk you through why she thought she'd bring it to KnownOrigin. Karen?
Okay, thank you. Hi, yes, so I'm known in this community as a crypto artist, and I'm on KnownOrigin among other platforms. And I've known, in my other life, I'm a writer, and I've known Jon through, he was a TED Fellow, he is a TED Fellow, and I knew him through the TED Fellowship community for whom I used to be a writer and still am currently a bit. And so I've known and worked with Jon for, I don't know, like quite a number of years, at least since 2013, and have been following his long-term documentary projects and written about them quite a lot over time. And so when he came to talk to me about this film about Jedidiah Brown, who is an activist in the south side of Chicago, where Jon is also from, he said he was going to have a GoFundMe campaign. And I said, well, you know, why don't you maybe tokenize some of your still photography from this project on one of the CryptoArt platforms and see if you can help augment your GoFundMe campaign with participation of the CryptoArt community, because the CryptoArt community had, during the Black Lives Matter upwelling of Black Lives Matter communication that happened a couple of months ago, there was a lot of people wanted to participate. And I thought this could be the perfect opportunity for the CryptoArt community to participate in a Black Lives Matter project. So that's why I brought Jon to the attention of David and the team, and here we are.
Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction, both Karen and David. And I can't wait to be having a chat with you, Jon, and to learn more about the project you've been working on. We have the pleasure to have Jon Lowenstein, which has been working on The Advocate, a documentary film, which was also based and shot in Chicago. Am I right in saying so?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Great. And maybe we can start by having a little introduction about you, Jon, and how you started collaborating and creating this project, and which were the motivation for you to be driving this project, putting the documentary together.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for KnownOrigin and Serena, and for Karen for organizing this. It's really exciting. I started working and living in Chicago in the 25 years ago, But I moved. I really started working in the community after I did a project called Chicago in the Year 2000, where after that, I spent 4 years teaching at a elementary school in the heart of the South Side, not far from where I moved a few years later. And through that, I just got to know tons of students in the community, and I did community newspapers, and I taught basketball, I coached basketball, and I was photographing. And I was really kind of learning about life there. And ever since then, I've been working on different projects. And when I moved in 2005 to South Shore, which is a wonderful neighborhood in Chicago, I started to continue the work. And really, that's where most of my work drives from. It drives from local communities. And it drives from, I'm having trouble. Can I see the other people while we talk? It's hard to talk to this. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Yeah, it's a little hard to talk to myself. And so that's really where the work drove from, and really exploring what it means for life in this community on the south side of Chicago, the beautiful resilience of the community, but also some of the really challenging parts. So there's pretty high levels of violence, poverty, segregation, and honestly just institutional racism that have existed in Chicago for many, many years. So I've kind of explored in a variety of ways using my camera what's happening in the city. And, as a journalist and as a documentarian, when I started, there was a real pressure for you to go out to other lands to photograph all these other things. But when I did that, and I went to places like I went to Afghanistan and photographed a little bit in 2003, I found I didn't really have anything to say about it. I didn't feel comfortable. And it really reinforced my feeling that the stories about America, about forgotten communities in the United States, in my country, whether they were about the community on the South Side or undocumented communities or disabled communities or whatever, it was really important to do those stories. And so I kind of, at a time, I did something that a lot of journalists weren't doing as much of in my realm. I just started photographing right outside my door. And in many ways, most of the photographs I've made, most of the meaningful relationships I've made have been done outside the door. And that's how I met Jedidiah. So I was driving down the street, literally a block from my house, and I see some flashing blue lights, police lights. And I really feel that it's important to be a witness to what's happening with the high levels of interpersonal and police violence in our community and in the community. And so I consistently kind of go to crime scenes and try to figure out what's going on and photograph the aftermath of violence, because it's tearing at the very fabric of the city, of the community, and of our country. And so when I saw that, I expected to see like a crime scene or something going on. And in fact, I found a young man, he was probably 27 at the time, on a bullhorn with about 5 empty coffins and 250 people marching on a Thursday afternoon against violence. And he had organized this, and I was like, who is this guy? Bald head.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where it began. And so that was in 2014. And in 2016, I was at the Trump rally, and he took down he jumped on the stage to help shut down the rally with all these different protesters. So I've sort of been following him off and on since then.
So it's interesting that what you described is so fascinating, because you happen to meet the protagonist of this film documentary by your house, in your same area, and you've been witnessing what happened, and since 2014 you've been following the facts and been reporting it. And I was going to ask you what kind of relationship you developed with Jedidiah. Sorry, do I pronounce his name correctly, or can you tell me his name again?
This is a great thing, because everybody pronounces it a little differently. You get Jedidiah. It's Jedidiah, but
Jedidiah.
Believe me, that the first title for the film was "And They Call Me Jedidiah," because he walks around and people are like, Jedidiah. you know, and it's always some different
It's such
form
a
of
great
that. So it's
name. I
wonderful.
love it. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it's wonderful to pronounce it as well. So yes, I'm curious to know what kind of relationship, you know, you established with Jedidiah, because I think, you know, you've been probably following what happened and you know, looking at the story and putting facts together. But how have the two of you been developing the concept of the documentary together?
Yeah, I think, you know, Jedediah and I have a very good relationship, but the interesting thing about it is that I met when I got further into his story was when a friend of mine was writing a piece about him. And we started talking, like this other journalist, Ben Austin, who's an amazing writer in Chicago, author of High Risers, and he's just an incredible writer. And he had been following Jed, and I had also photographed Jed. And so we started talking about it. I'm like, what are you working on? He's like, oh man, actually, I've been kind of hanging out with this dude, Jedidiah Brown. And I'm like, oh, really? That's so interesting. I think that guy's kind of wild. And he's like, yeah, he's an interesting guy. So we did a piece for the HuffPost Highline that was independent. And Ben really did an amazing thing, which he kind of got involved with them. And then through that, I started to get to know Jed even better. And after we finished and published that piece, I felt like I said to Jed, I said, I think your story needs to be told, not just your story, but this story needs to be told as a film. I felt like the photographs, I could have spent a year photographing him and you wouldn't understand the power of his voice and the power of the voice of all the different activists and what they go through on a daily basis to try to improve America and speak truth to power on a daily basis. So our relationship grew out of that. And it's always a back and forth with any documentary. I mean, if you do documentary work, it's a negotiation. And because he uses Facebook Live to tell his own story in such an eloquent and ongoing manner, that's a big part of the film. But it's also sometimes a bit of I think, controlling the narrative. Who's going to control the narrative? Who's telling which story and how is something that we're negotiating as we go.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, what kind of approach do you take as a director in the documentary in terms of the storytelling, the narrative that you are portraying and putting on screen? You know, I think it's interesting to see, especially around such a topic. How do you tell the story? How do you convey that message?
Yeah, for me, I believe in verite. I'm like really like a fly. Not, I don't believe in fly on the wall, but I believe that I want to be in the skin of the character. I want to live with, you know, like if Jeb would let me like stay there and live there, I would. But you know, he also has a private life. But yeah, I believe strongly that, you know, observing the way that people interact through the process is through their life is how you tell the story. So I've spent countless hours with him on adventures and journeys and actions and everything to try to get a sense of how he sees interacting with the community, interacting with police, interacting with, you know, the social space that is Chicago and America. And it's very interesting too, being that, you know, I'm not black. I'm a white guy. And so there's always that sort of negotiation of, you know, negotiation of representation. But I think the process of being in the community for so long and having deep ties and understanding it has helped a lot. And I also think that my feeling is when you see something like in Chicago and the United States, we've had these deep inequalities for forever, really. And when you see it up close and personal, and you know people who have been like, I mean, even one of the guys I filmed for the film that I started right before this, that I thought was going to be this film, like two of those people have died, and I've known them since they were young. Like they got killed. One got killed like a month ago. Another one got killed last summer or the summer before last. And it's like, I have photographs of these guys when they were kids, when they were just little shorties. And I think that is a different level of understanding. Not that it's about people, getting killed, but that I've seen people from the community with all these different trajectories. And there's so much potential. And I think that's what's cool about what happened after George Floyd is people are seeing that there's so much untapped potential. And that in the community, that because of the segregation and the denial of its existence and the denial of people's full potential. And so Jedidiah and Lamont and Will and Asada's daughters and all these other activist groups really are speaking, and Ava DuVernay and all these different movements of art really are speaking to the full potential of what we're not, supporting. And I see the same thing happening in the undocumented community too, where you have millions of people who have really, despite incredible systems of oppression and incarceration, are building a new America, a new United States. And imagine if we shifted the conversation to what can we do to build healthy communities, not how can we incarcerate poor people? How can we keep education completely unequal? How can we, these things. So the individual story can help you to understand the larger picture.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's such a great way of portraying the story and sharing it with communities. There's actually messages here. There's one I would love to share with you because I think it's so important to address what people watching are sharing. And I thank so much King Mizo Madelt watching for sharing this message. Saying I've been close to suicide from this racism, knowing that you're all doing, knowing what you're all doing helps me breathe, love. And, I think what you just said, Jon, really expressed the need for what you're doing. So going back to the documentary, The Advocate, I would love to know the stage of the documentary and where you're at with the project and what can people actively do to support.
Yeah, can I just say one quick thing about that is that, Jed, first of all, I'm glad you didn't take your life, King Mizo, and I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that the work touches you. One of the main reasons, Jedidiah also almost was pushed to the point of killing himself on Facebook Live. He almost ended his life after a personal tragedy in his family. His cousin, who he helped raise, died. We're not sure if he was drowned or it was suicide, but he died. And that in combination with the work, but he didn't. And part of the film is talking about the process of going from the deepest depths of despair, which I think so many people feel because of all these systems, to the rebuilding your life and that potential in one person. I always think of Jedidiah like, imagine if he had been successful, what we would have lost just from that one suicide, and how many lives he touches and is touched that I've seen, that I witnessed, and what that tragedy being avoided really meant and means just for the individual. So I'm just thankful that you didn't, and that's one of the reasons that the personal trauma, not just of advocacy, but of what people endure in the community and in our country, and why we're not, in our world really, we're not creating spaces for healthy community. And then that also means that individually we're less healthy than we could be. So the stage of the movie is that it's pretty fascinating, actually. We're in the final stage of production, meaning continuing to follow Jedidiah. There have been some incredible developments the last few days, I believe, in his life, but we'll see. Can't make him public now, but it's going to be a big thing for the narrative arc. And we're looking to post-produce. We've got an editor. who's gone through all the footage. We're working on the edit, me and her, and a team of people are really starting to delve in and help to make the film. But we are kind of at a point where it is it needs help. We do need a little help. We need a little gasolina to get people moving, because I've done it basically just on my own. Like, I just, when I can, I go shoot, and then it's my own thing. But the people who edit and produce and do all that stuff, they need to be supported so we can finish this.
Yeah, of course, of course. I'll be sharing some links here as well, because we know that the team at KnownOrigin has been supporting this campaign, and we have a number of limited editions that have been published on KO recently. So if everyone, anybody watching who wants to support, those are available. And there's also a GoFundMe link, which I will just share here now, where you can also donate what you can. I would love for Karen and David to tell us a bit more about the editions on KO, which I'll show on screen, and John as well, if you want to tell us how you choose those captures and what we should be expecting coming up on KO, because I know there's more stuff coming up as well. So I'll be sharing it on screen, and Karen and David, if you'd like to introduce us to how you've approached KO and how you made these available as limited editions. Because also, I believe it's the first time, Karen, you were saying that we have these kind of work available in the CryptoArt space.
It's certainly the first time we've had a documentarian on KnownOrigin. Karen approached us, showed us the project. I was blown away by the kind of GoFundMe video. The images that Karen and John have kind of selected as the limited editions, again, are really powerful. And we want to use KnownOrigin. It's got a privileged position, so let's shine the spotlight on some of these campaigns and the things that we're passionate about, and let's try and help. I'll let Karen talk a little more and John talk a little bit more about the edition run and kind of what the plan is. But we've said that any sales made through KnownOrigin, 10% of our commission will go straight to the GoFundMe page. We're trying to get some kind of press involved just to try and raise the profile. And we've seen a lot of money in the Ethereum, in the CryptoArt scene and in the Ethereum scene. And it's an opportunity to move some of that money into like some positive campaigns that we can actually really make a difference with. It's a genuine opportunity for the CryptoArt community to kind of help move the needle on this. As John was saying, the documentary is at a point where it needs post-production, it needs editing, and it needs to be out so people can see it. And the experiment is, can the CryptoArt community help make that happen? It's quite a simple hypothesis. We just want to see if we can make it happen. But yeah, I'm gonna let Karen and John tell you a little bit more about the work and about the edition run and kind of what else is coming along the way.
Thank you so much, David. Yes, Karen, if you'd like to tell us about the project and how you selected the work, and the fact that I see there's 5 editions available for each, and they're all untitled. So I'd love to know more about it.
Well, one thing I should say, that having known Jon this many years, you guys should all go to other work, because he really is, besides being an incredibly large-hearted journalist, he is also an artist. And so his documentary photographs across the board have, as you can see, this incredible, beautiful artistry to them. We chose, well, part of this came out of conversation about archiving Jon's work in the blockchain. And so this is part of what we're doing. And I asked him to come up with a set of photographs that would tell Jedidiah's story, augment the film, but that would be sort of a set that he wanted to time capsule, right, Jon? Yeah. And so we
Yeah,
came up.
Jedidiah and yep.
Yeah, so we came up with about a set of, there's 11 still images altogether that we chose, and we've minted 3 so far. We had planned to mint more frequently, but gas prices are kind of killing us, just as they're killing everyone. So we're just kind of, I'm keeping an eye on the gas and minting when it goes down. And I'm doing an edition of 6 and immediately transferring 1 back to Jon's wallet so that he has his own archive. And then the other 5 are up for sale and will be indefinitely. And the proceeds for this set of pictures will go towards funding the completion of the film. That's not to say that in future, maybe Jon will also hopefully join the community and start tokenizing other of his pieces, his other photographic and journalistic work, maybe his film, but also he also does fine art. So, so hopefully he'll be doing that in future as well. But for this particular set, we're going to be channeling the funds into supporting the completion of the film.
And I could just say, like, the pictures we chose, they're images that I took of Jedidiah and Lamont. Lamont Record was 15 or 16 when he started protesting the Laquan McDonald case, and he became kind of famous for coming about an inch away from police officers' face and just staring at them. And this picture I just like because he has the Black Liberation flag, and it says "Peace starts here," and he just done that. And he's kind of a kooky teenager. Now he's a little bit older, but you know, he's definitely the Jedidiah's kind of younger sidekick. But he's in the film a lot, and they're just really great guys. But the other thing that's really fascinating is I think these guys show up, and not just these guys, but all the activists show up for people who nobody's listening, who tragedies or things have happened that nobody will hear and nobody will help. And it's the same thing that with George Floyd, what happened when they videotaped his murder. It was a person just saying, look, I'm watching, I'm going to witness this, and I can't attack you. I can't stop it physically, but I can do something by my action. And I think Jed says this all the time. He's like, I just keep showing up. And he's just basically a guy, right? And that's the thing that's kind of amazing about being around these guys, is like learning about it is just, it's like, it's a big experiment, really. It's just trying one thing after the other. And he's like, he always says, well, we're crabs in a barrel, just we don't have anywhere to go but up. So it's like, that's what he said, like when we did an interview, it's like, and I hear that so much from people because they're put into these situations that are so intense. But these guys believe it's so aspirational. They believe so strongly that they can affect change. And they have. They have made change in the city of Chicago. People are making change in America. We can change our circumstances in our world. It doesn't have to be written as the right or certain people believe. It can be written the way we believe. And so I really feel that this story is important to tell because it flies in the face of so much of the general conversation about even my community on the South Side being negative, but these guys prove time and again what I've seen, which is that most of it is positive. Most of it is people living their lives, doing the best they can. And that's what I love about Jedidiah and Lamont and Will and all the guys and women's stories. Very powerful.
Yeah, it truly is. Yes. Yes, Karen.
Oh, I'm being attacked by a fly. But I also wanted to say, one thing that may not yet be coming across is that Jedidiah isn't just someone who takes to the streets with flags and yells a lot. He's a guy who responds to crises in the community. So he's just a community member who, if someone's having a crisis, he'll go over to their house, he'll find them food, or he'll call a lawyer, or he'll like try to find, if someone has died, he'll help try to make arrangements. And so he's not just someone who's out fighting, he's actually someone who's out taking care of people in the community, because there's not that many resources in a community like that. So can you sort of speak to that, Jon?
For sure. A large part of what he has done for the last 10 years is show up to situations, extremely challenging situations, and try to find a way to help.
Mm-hmm.
And so for him, he started to be called, like, kind of recall it like he's a first responder, activist, or advocate. And in many ways, that's really his role. Each advocate has a little bit different area that they specialize in and a way that they work. Everybody's a little different. Some people are great at organizing groups. Some people are good at confronting and just arriving. Jedidiah is kind of the type of person who he shows up, like, for instance, there's a young woman, her son was being bullied for 2 years at Chicago Public School. And she kept on going. She went to the principal. She went to the board of education. She complained. She said, my kid can we transfer him? And this happens a lot. Finally, she walked in one day and the kid had a bed sheet around his neck. And she cut the bed sheet off her son's neck. And actually the daughter found her and then told the mom, and then the mom came and used the scissors that broke, and she saved his life. But then nobody would even help about this. And so Jedidiah actually started to Facebook Live. How can we help this person? And we were actually in the hospital emergency room, and he's Facebook Living. And some people, I think, thought it was kind of gauche or not good. But you know what? He brought attention and help and people to help this woman in her moment of the most dark time in her life. And that's kind of the type of stuff that he does. He'll go and just crazy stuff where it's like you'll find out that a local corner store has a video of a murder of somebody, and they're not releasing it, or they won't tell anybody, or and he goes and he'll show up by himself just to put pressure on them and confront them and say, why aren't you? And he'll do a Facebook Live and be like, why aren't you showing this? Give it to the police, or you have information. And it's kind of crazy, sometimes when you think, because he's willing to enter these spaces that most of us would never want to enter. And they're challenging kind of cultural spaces. Like right before the Trump rally, a young man was murdered in a far south side neighborhood that's home to many Chicago police and firefighters, predominantly white, and they're city workers mostly. A young kid was shot by the police. So there started to be these protests. And this is in 2016. So Jed went by himself and created these like community meetings where he was like basically the only black guy speaking to a group of white angry community members. And he's brokering this thing. So I do find that he does have a way of stepping into spaces that are a little bit different than other folks do. And he's just that part of the daily chore, if I want, for lack of a better term, of what it takes to do this advocacy, rent the buses, raise the money, bail people out of jail, just so many things. And that's sometimes why, unless you can build an organization, this freelance approach to it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, as you were talking, I was looking at the on Channel 4, I think there's a piece of the documentary. I don't know if you will be happy to show this, because I think it will make sense to give an idea of the character we're talking about and how the documentary is sort of showing these intimacy and the moments in which, you know, he approaches situations that most people, as you described, would feel very much uncomfortable to find themselves in.
Of course.
If that's okay with you, I would love to show it just a little bit. I don't know
Of
if the audio
course.
will play. And also to say, somebody here also offered to help doing an event in the metaverse to support the project and to let more people know about it.
I would love that. I would love
So
that.
I will share that message here as well. I think it will be great for everyone watching. And if you do have questions, please feel free to send them through. We'll be happy to discuss with you. But yes, I will share my screen again and show you a little bit of the documentary. And then, John, if you want, you can describe some of the scenes that we are going to look at here.
It's a whole lot of injustices in this country. Evan, I was born in America for a reason. And you get two options. Either you're going to complain about it or you're going to change it. I'm not much for complaining.
No justice, no peace. No racist police. No justice, no peace. No racist police. No justice, no peace. No racist police. Jedidiah Brown.
What's good, y'all? How y'all doing? This is Jedidiah. My mind is full. My heart is heavy.
Having some issues loading, but just to give you an idea of what the documentary
My day
is about.
started with
Okay. Yes.
Maybe we could post the link so that people can go to it themselves on Channel 4 and watch the whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to give a visual representation of who we've been talking about and the kind of situation that you've been filming and documenting.
For sure.
Throughout.
No, I mean, a lot of the, like in that film, we filmed him having this conversation just days after the George Floyd, in the middle of the George Floyd protests in Chicago, just days after the situation and all this stuff. And he literally went to talk to the headquarters of police, Chicago police headquarters. And there's like a line of police, and he's all pretty much by himself with a couple people he works with. And he's like having this conversation with them. Like, I believe in, working this out. How can we make our world better? And then he had this long conversation with this black cop, African-American cop. And it was just really fascinating how the amazing desire to dialogue for change. I mean, it made me think in some ways of, there was a story from the Berlin Wall, and I don't remember, I was just listening to it, and the army's there, and then the protesters speak to the army, and they say, can we talk? And they tell them their narrative about why they should join them. And that, the German army joins them, and they turn their tanks around and go. And it's like the power of the human, I never really thought about that connection, but the voice is so clear that we need a different way. And people are seeing this all over the country. We're putting another film out that I did just the other day about another activist who was attacked on July 4th in Bloomington, Indiana at a reservoir. He went to see the moonrise. His name's Fox Booker. And this guy went to the park to have fun with his friends. And he was met with some very extremely racist people who ended up attacking him and trying to lynch him. But the thing about Vox is his voice. He was like, they can beat me, they can shoot me, they can kill me, but they're not going to silence my voice. And I think the voice and this desire to talk, speak truth to power is something that is extremely important to understand, and understand what that means for the people who are on the front lines and put their bodies and their hearts and their souls and their psyches on the front lines time and again for all of us. And I believe strongly that's why this film and these other films and projects that I work on are so important, because so many people are terrified in our country. They're terrified. My friend, this is an undocumented family I've known for 20 years. They're mixed status at this point. The family has everybody in it. Just 2 weeks ago, she hadn't seen her mom in 20 years. And her family, her mom got a visa, a humanitarian visa to come from Mexico, to come see her daughter after 20 years of separation because of American immigration policy, essentially. And when she was preparing to go to the airport, she said to me, you know, I hope that ICE does not grab me when I go to the airport, because then you'll be filming me in Mexico and you'll have my mom to film up here. And when she went to the airport, she couldn't even go into the airport. She didn't feel comfortable to go to the airport to pick up her mom after 20 years to greet her, because she was afraid that ICE was going to deport her. And so this is the type of stuff that we're working on. And I believe strongly that these very intimate and powerful stories of resilience and oppression deserve to be shown, and that these voices and families and people I've known for a good portion of my life and who I love and who really brought me into their worlds with a great degree of trust should also be shown and shared. So hopefully people can understand a little more what it means when you say the other, because the other is really me. You are me and I am you, right? I mean, we are all part of the human race. And I just, that's how it is. So that's why I'm doing the work. And I believe strongly that we have to continue it. And I appreciate so much the support, because sometimes it's hard to really verbalize why I do this. But I have realized I have to learn how to go beyond just showing it and be able to speak about it.
Absolutely. You, Jon, used the right word to put this together. And I think, you know, what you really shared with us today is all your experiences and what it meant for you to be part of this documentary, you know, mind and soul, and be part of that story and telling it with no filters, by joining Jed throughout, you know, his experiences and documenting what happened day by day. So I think everyone is so willing to see the final documentary being out, and I just wanted to thank everybody who's been in support of this talk, and thank you for joining this live, and KnownOrigin for making the editions available on that platform. I also want to remind everyone that there's a link right below here. So if you wish to donate any amount, that will be greatly appreciated. And also you'll find the editions on KnownOrigin. I'll share the link once again here. There will be more editions to come. And I also heard from Karen, there will be a video, the first documentary in crypto. Is that right?
As far as I know. As far as I know, Jon is the first mainstream documentarian in the crypto art space. I could be wrong though, so if anybody wants to come forward, please let us know. But certainly one of the first. And the video will be a short. It won't be a full piece. It'll be a clip. And we may launch that in Crypto Voxels at some point during one of the whips. So we'll see what happens.
And I think you should definitely connect with King Mizo because he would love to help.
For
they would love
sure.
to help, which I think will be a great way of putting all of us in touch with one another. And I think, you know, Jon, what you just expressed here is so powerful because it really makes us think that humanity is one and we're all connected. And also COVID has been challenging that idea that we are different because we're not. We're all the same. So I think, you know, what happened in the last 6 months really challenged the way humanity has been functioning and
Yes.
the way society is structured. And I thank you so much for sharing such great work with us today. It's been a pleasure to having you and Karen and David on this live.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And just really appreciate your time and everybody for supporting and really believing in the project and in what I do and in what we can do together.
Absolutely, anytime. It's been great talking to you. Thank you, everybody.
So good to meet you.
Yeah, we
Thank you,
have
sir.
content here. So Karen, she will be in touch with you. Once again, thank you so much. And thank you to KnownOrigin for hosting this live and having the editions available for everybody. Donate what you can, support The Advocate, the film out soon. And let's keep in touch throughout social media and let's stay strong. Thank you so much, Jon and Karen.
Thank you, Tina.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much. All right, take care. All right.
Bye.
Bye everybody.
Bye.